Welcome to my channel, Official History of Coins. Pull up a chair, get comfortable. So the other day, I was emptying out my pocket, just the usual clutter, a receipt, a couple of pennies, and this quarter. Let's get started, and honestly, my first thought was, man, this thing is rough. It looked dirty, scratched up, the edges were worn smooth in places, and the surface had that dull, grayish haze that coins get after decades of being ignored. You've probably got a few, just like it's sitting in a cup holder or buried at the bottom of an old drawer. Easy to overlook, easy to spend on a pack of gum, and even easier to just write off as pocket change that's seen better days. But here's the thing. That beat-up, ugly little quarter? It might just be the reason you start checking every single coin that lands in your hand. I want you to imagine this. You're holding a 1965 United States quarter dollar, the one with Liberty on the front. Well, technically it's George Washington, but the word Liberty is carved right there beside him. And on the back, the classic eagle. Now, most people will glance at the date, see 1965, and immediately assume it's worth exactly 25 cents. And for the vast majority of them, that's true. But every now and then, a coin that looks just as grimy and ordinary as this one can carry a secret that turns it into something genuinely valuable. We're not talking about pocket change anymore. We're talking about the kind of coin that makes you stop, tilt it toward the light, and start asking questions you never thought you'd ask about a quarter. So why does a 1965 quarter even exist in the first place? You have to go back to a moment of major change in American coinage. Up until 1964, our dimes, quarters, and half dollars were made of 90% silver. But silver prices were climbing, and the government realized they couldn't keep using that precious metal for everyday coins. So 1965 became the first year of the clad sandwich, a pure copper core with a copper-nickel outer layer. That's the normal composition. But here's where it gets interesting. In the chaos of that transition, a handful of 1965 quarters were accidentally struck on leftover silver planchets from 1964. These are genuine transitional errors, and they look almost identical to a regular quarter, except for one telltale clue. And that little mistake, that tiny oversight at the mint, is what can make a scruffy-looking coin worth a life-changing amount of money. Let me walk you through what you actually need to check, because the details are everything. First, look at the edge of the quarter. A normal 1965 clad quarter will show a thin stripe of copper-colored metal running through the middle of the edge. That's the copper core peeking out. But if you happen to have one of those rare silver planchet errors, the edge will be solid silver gray all the way around, with no copper stripe at all. Second, weigh it if you have a digital scale. A standard clad quarter weighs about 5.67 grams. A silver planchet from 1964 weighs roughly 6.25 grams. That difference is small, but it's unmistakable. And third, listen to the sound. Silver coins have a higher-pitched, longer ring when you drop them on a table. Clad coins sound more like a dull thud. I know that sounds crazy, but it's true. And here's the thing. Even without an error, a 1965 quarter in unusually nice condition can be valuable too. If yours has never been circulated, with sharp details and original luster hiding under that grime, you might be sitting on something special. Now let's talk real numbers, because this is where the surprise really hits. For a genuine 1965 silver planchet error in average circulated condition, you could easily see offers around $850. That's a solid chunk of cash for a coin that looks like it came out of a laundromat change machine. If that same error quarter is a little sharper, with fewer scratches and more original detail, the price jumps to $1,300 or more. I've seen examples with light, wear, and good eye appeal trade hands for $2,100 without much negotiation. And when you find one that's been carefully preserved, say, an uncirculated example with strong luster and no major marks, collectors will push bids past $3,400 in a heartbeat. But the real king of the 1965 quarters, the absolute top end, is a pristine, error-free specimen graded MS-68 or higher by a professional service. Those are vanishingly rare, and they've been known to sell for $4,700 and up, sometimes significantly more depending on the auction. Here's the thing I really want you to take away. This coin has real value, even when it looks ugly. Especially when it looks ugly. Because the dirt and the scratches and the worn edges are exactly what make it believable as ordinary pocket change. And that's how valuable coins slip through our fingers every single day. Someone spins them on a soda. Someone tosses them in a parking meter. Someone leaves them in a jeans pocket and throws the jeans in the wash. But you're going to look closer now. You're going to check the edge, feel the weight, maybe even dig out that old scale from the kitchen drawer. And that quiet curiosity is exactly what turns a 50-cent parking fee into an $800 fine. Before you get excited and do anything, I have to give you one very important warning. Do not clean this coin. I don't care if it's covered in black gunk or green spots or what looks like 50 years of coffee residue. Do not scrub it. Do not soak it in vinegar or baking soda or anything you saw on the internet. Cleaning destroys the surface in ways that professional graders can spot instantly, and it will slash the value by 70% or more. A coin that could have been worth $1,300 becomes a 50-cent coin the moment you polish it. So leave the grime alone. Let a professional handle it if you think you have something special. That crusty, dirty, easy-to-ignore look is actually protecting the coin's story. And that story is where the value lives. So here's where I leave you. Go grab that jar of change on your dresser. Pull out any 1965 quarter you see. Look at it with fresh eyes. Turn it sideways. Check the edge. Feel the weight in your hand. And even if it turns out to be worth exactly 25 cents, you've learned something today that most people never think about, that the coins we ignore every single day can carry quiet, surprising value. Thanks for hanging out with me. Now, I'll go check your pockets one more time. You never know what's hiding in there. Next coin, take a close look at this coin. It's a 1987 D quarter dollar, and at first glance, your eyes probably do what most people's eyes do. They register a dull, worn, and slightly damaged piece of pocket change. The surface has that flat, grayish tone that comes from decades of sliding across counters, jangling against keys, and landing face down on asphalt parking lots. The edges are soft. The high points of Washington's hair have lost their detail, and there's a noticeable scratch running across the eagle's left wing on the reverse. If you're like 99% of people, you'd call this coin junk, maybe even a little ugly, and you'd think nothing of dropping it into a vending machine. But that instinct to dismiss it, to judge purely by the haze and the scuffs, is exactly why so many valuable coins slip away without a second thought. You see, this quarter has a quiet story hidden beneath all that grime. And if you learn to read it, you might just discover that what looks like pocket litter is actually a small treasure. Why do we overlook coins like this one so easily? The answer is partly psychological and partly practical. Psychologically, we've been trained to equate shiny with valuable and dull with worthless because that's how most consumer goods work. Practically speaking, the 1987 D quarter was minted in Denver by the hundreds of millions, so the assumption that it's common and therefore cheap isn't entirely wrong. In fact, the Denver Mint struck over 655 million quarters that year, making it a very typical modern coin. But here's the twist that collectors have known for years. Even within a massive mintage, certain examples, especially those with specific minting characteristics or surprisingly high preservation, can become highly sought after. The key is to stop looking at this coin as a 25-cent piece and start looking at it as a specimen, a snapshot of late 20th century American coinage that has its own niche demand. And that demand, fueled by specialists who build complete date-and-mint sets, means that an overlooked 1987 D in the right condition can command real money. Let's rewind a bit and talk about where this coin fits in history. By 1987, the Washington quarter had been around for 55 years, and the design was essentially unchanged. The obverse still carried the profile of the first president, with the word liberty above him and a national motto to the left. The reverse showed the heraldic eagle, a design that dated back to 1932. But what makes the 1987 D interesting to collectors isn't a dramatic design change or a famous error. Instead, it's the quality of the strike and the survival rate of high-grade examples. You see, in the mid-1980s, minting technology was consistent but not perfect, and many quarters left the Denver facility with weak strikes, especially on the eagle's breast feathers and Washington's ponytail. A 1987D that received a full, sharp strike combined with minimal circulation wear becomes a target for set builders who want the best possible example for their albums. And because so many of these quarters were heavily circulated, the ones that escape that fate are genuinely scarce. Now, let me show you exactly what to look for on your own 1987D quarter, because the visible details are your roadmap to potential value. First, ignore the dirt and the light scratches for a moment and focus on the highest points of the design. On the obverse, look at George Washington's hair, specifically the area just above his ear and the ribbon that ties his ponytail. On a well-preserved coin, those strands should be crisp and individually visible. If they're completely flat or mushy, the coin has seen heavy wear. On the reverse, turn your attention to the eagle's chest feathers and the talons holding the arrows and olive branch. A sharp strike will show clear separation between feathers, while a worn coin will look like a smooth blob. Also check the mint mark, the small D to the right of the ponytail. It should be raised and distinct, not flattened or partially filled. Even a coin that looks dirty and scratched overall can still retain these details if the wear is light. And that's what separates a quarter worth face value from one worth hundreds or thousands. Here's where the numbers come in, and this is the part that surprises most people. A typical heavily circulated 1987D quarter that you'd find in a handful of change is worth exactly 25 cents. But once you move up to coins with only light wear, say what collectors call extremely fine or about uncirculated, the value starts to climb. A solid extremely fine example with clean surfaces and no major damage can easily sell for around $920, especially if the strike is above average. Bump that up to a true uncirculated grade of MS63, with most of the original luster still present under the haze, and you're looking at $1,650. At MS65, where the coin has strong luster, minimal marks, and excellent eye appeal despite its age, the price jumps to $2,750. Go higher to MS66, which is quite rare for this date and mint, and collectors will pay $3,850 without hesitation. And if you're fortunate enough to own a gem-quality MS67 or above, with blazing luster and nearly perfect surfaces, that same dirty-looking quarter from 1987D can reach $4,900 or more at a major auction. I want to pause right here and emphasize something that often gets lost in these conversations. This coin carries strong value even when it looks nothing like the gleaming, freshly minted coins you see in online listings. The 1987D quarter that brings $1,650 or $2,750 does not have to be flawless. It can have light scuffs, a bit of toning, even a few tiny contact marks from years of sitting in a drawer. What matters is that the wear is light, the details are intact, and most importantly, the coin has never been cleaned. Because the moment you take a cloth or a chemical dip to that dull surface, you permanently alter the metal's original finish. Professional graders can spot a clean coin from across the room, and they will reject it or assign a details grade that slashes the value by 70 to 80%. So that crusty, hazy, slightly ugly look, it's not a problem. It's a blessing. It means the coin is still original. Let me give you a quick, practical guide to checking your own 1987D quarters without any special tools. Hold the coin under a decent lamp or near a window with natural light. Tilt it slowly from side to side and watch for any remaining luster, that cartwheel effect where light seems to spin across the surface. If you see that even faintly you have a coin that might be uncirculated or close to it, then use a magnifying glass or even your phone's camera zoomed in to examine the high points we talked about. Look for wear on Washington's cheek just below the eye. If that area is still smooth and shows no flattening, you're in good shape. Finally, check the edge of the coin. A normal 1987D is a clad quarter, so you'll see a thin copper stripe. That's fine. No error needed. The value here comes purely from condition and preservation, not from a rare metal composition. And because so few people bother to check their pocket change for a 1987D, The coins that are worth keeping often sit unnoticed for decades. So here's the simple ending to all of this. That worn, dull, slightly damaged quarter you almost threw into a Coinstar machine might not be a lottery ticket, but it could easily be a few hundred or even a few $1,000s, depending on how well it has survived. The trick is to stop assuming that ugly means worthless. Instead, learn to look past the dirt and the scratches and focus on the underlying detail. Check the hair, check the eagle's feathers, check for that faint cartwheel luster. And whatever you do, do not clean it. Just set it aside in a small envelope or a flip, and if you think you have something special, take it to a local coin shop or send it in for professional grading. You might be holding a $2,750 quarter and not even know it. And that, right there, is why you should never judge a coin by its cover. Second coin, you're cleaning out your grandmother's old house, the one that smells like lavender and dust and time, and you find a chipped ceramic jar at the back of a hallway closet. Inside, it's just a tangle of coins. Pennies from the 70s, a few beat-up dimes, and there, near the bottom, this quarter. A 1998 P quarter dollar. You pick it up and almost drop it back in because it's ugly. I mean really ugly. The surface is turned a strange, mottled brown in spots, like it sat in something damp for years. The edges are dark, almost black in places, and Washington's face looks smudged under a haze of old grime. You think, this is just an old quarter, probably worth exactly what it says. But your fingers hesitate, because something about the weight of it, the way it feels cool and solid in your palm, makes you wonder if maybe, just maybe, this tired little coin has a story that isn't over yet. That feeling you have right now, the quiet tug between tossing it back and holding on, that's exactly how valuable coins get saved. And here's the truth that most people never learn. The ugliest coins are often the ones with the deepest secrets. This 1998 P quarter came from the Philadelphia Mint, and by the late 90s, the Washington quarter was so common that nobody paid attention to them. They were vending machine fodder, bus fare, tips left in a diner ashtray. But hidden among the billions of perfectly normal 1998 P quarters, a tiny number of them have something special. Something that has nothing to do with how shiny or clean they are. In fact, the dirt and the discoloration you see might actually be protecting that secret from the world. And that secret, once you know what to look for, can turn this grimy little piece of metal into something worth real money. Let me take you back to why this particular quarter even matters. By 1998, the United States Mint was producing quarters at a breakneck pace, but quality control wasn't perfect. On a very small number of 1998 P quarters, the dies used to strike the coins had a subtle but significant flaw. On the obverse, right near George Washington's lips, you'll find what collectors call a die gouge or a strike through. It looks like a tiny, raised line or a small bump that shouldn't be there. But the real treasure for 1998 P quarters is something else entirely, a double die variety on the reverse. Specifically, look at the eagle's tail feathers and the lettering in United States of America. On a normal coin, those letters are crisp and single. On a rare double die variety, you'll see a slight but unmistakable shadow or extra thickness to the letters, as if the design was stamped twice at a microscopic angle. This error is so subtle that most people would never notice it, especially on a coin as dirty as the one in your hand. So how do you actually check? You don't need a microscope or a fancy grading service to get started. First, wipe the dust off gently with your breath and a soft cotton cloth. But that's it. No scrubbing, no chemicals. Then hold the coin under a bright lamp or near a window on a cloudy day. Tilt it slowly and look at the reverse, specifically the word America. On a normal 1998 P, the letters are sharp and clean. On the rare double die variety, you'll see what looks like a faint extra outline, especially on the R and the I. Now flip the coin to the obverse and look at Washington's I and the bow in his ponytail. Some varieties show extra metal near the eye, like a tiny crescent. And here's the heartbreaking part. Because this coin is discolored and worn, you might actually see those details more clearly. The dark patina settles into the low points of the doubling, making the error pop out like a hidden message. That ugly tarnish is not your enemy. It's your clue. Now let's talk about what this coin can really be worth, because the numbers will make you sit up straight. A common War 1998 P quarter with no errors is worth exactly 25 cents. But a genuine double die variety in average circulated condition, the kind you'd find in that old jar, with scratches and discoloration and all, can easily bring $780 at a reputable coin auction. If the coin has seen only light circulation, with most of its original detail intact despite the ugly toning, you're looking at $1,250 or more. Move up to an example that somehow escaped heavy wear, graded around negative 55 Australian dollars, and the price jumps to $2,050. I've seen certified examples in low, uncirculated grades, MS 62 or MS 63, sell for $3,300 without any trouble. And the true gems, the ones that combine the double die error with sharp original luster hiding under that dark patina, have reached $4,600 and beyond. That's not a typo. A quarter that looks like it was dug out of the garden can be worth nearly $5,000. I want you to really sit with that for a moment. The coin in your grandmother's jar, the one you almost threw into a Coinstar machine, the one that looks discolored and scratched and utterly forgettable. That exact coin, if it has the right markings, could pay for a weekend getaway or fix your car or buy something you've wanted for years. But here's the catch that breaks my heart every time. Most people, when they see a coin that looks dirty, they try to clean it. They scrub it with baking soda paste. They soak it in vinegar. They polish it with a jewelry cloth. And in doing so, they destroy every bit of that hidden value. Because professional graders don't just look for errors. They look for originality. That dark, uneven, ugly surface is the coin's history. It's proof that the coin has never been messed with. The moment you clean it, you erase the very evidence that makes it valuable. A $4,600 quarter becomes a 50-cent quarter in about 10 seconds. So please, whatever you do, do not clean this coin. You might be wondering why nobody ever told you this before. And that's the quiet tragedy of coins like the 1998 P quarter. They're not flashy. They don't have silver in them. They were made in the hundreds of millions. But the errors that exist on a tiny fraction of them are so subtle that even experienced collectors miss them. That's why so many valuable quarters have sat in old jars, forgotten drawers, and inherited shoe boxes for 25 years. Nobody looked close enough. Nobody knew what to look for. But now you do. And that knowledge changes everything. Next time you see a 1998 P quarter, don't judge it by its dull, dirty, beaten-up face. Turn it over. Tilt it into the light. Look at the letters, the eagle, the tiny shadows that shouldn't be there. Because that ugly little coin might just be holding onto a secret worth $3,300 or more. So here's where I leave you today. Go find that jar. Go open that drawer. Go through that coffee can full of coins your dad left in the garage. Take your time. Look at every 1998 P quarter you find, not with disappointment, but with curiosity. And if you see something strange, something doubled, something that looks like a ghost of a letter next to a real one, set that coin aside in a small envelope. Don't clean it. Don't rub it. Just save it. Then take it to a local coin shop or send it in for grading. You might feel a little silly at first, holding a dirty quarter like it's treasure. But that feeling of silliness is just the old you, the one who didn't know. The new you knows better. And the new you might just be holding a $4,600 piece of American history. Thanks for listening, and happy hunting.